Word. Warm welcome to the Sacred Healing Vibration podcast.
Welcome.
Today we are going to speak about something that can be very triggering for a lot of people, namely the relationship between a parent and a child. So the topic is conscious parenting. And our special guest today is Hillevi. A warm welcome. Please tell us a little bit about yourself before we deep dive into this topic.
Okay, thank you so much for connecting with me. I think this topic is like the most interesting and fulfilling thing you can ever dive into. And for me, like my interest for this kind of relationship awoke when I was a child myself and watching like the relationship from the child perspective and like all the like communication inside me and all the wonders about why are grown-ups doing this and why can I get like a feeling of something and then they're saying something else and how can I understand this and also like all my life wondering about how life really works and being really curious about watching what happens behind all the noise, so to speak. And then also like having kids myself and also working with kids my whole life a lot in settings where kids are like in psychiatric disabilities or like where it's more difficult, if that's a good word.
Yeah, some of the things we do as parents are really weird. Like it's just like we inherit this strange concept of what it should look like to be a parent, and sometimes we don't even think about it. Like we were in the store, you remember in Halmstad?
Yes.
And Anisha started, I don't know how, she was 3, I think, or 4. No, 3. She was 3. And she wanted something, but we're like, we're on a schedule. We're gonna do this, and then we're gonna get out, and then we're gonna go home, cook dinner, and put the kid to bed. Like that is the plan here. But then she wanted something, and she just started screaming. And then we said like, okay, if you scream, we're gonna take you out of the store, and the other parent will continue the shopping. And like in the middle, while we were like acting out this program, I was like, oh my god, this is actually like really traumatizing for her. She's screaming and forced to be separated, to wait outside because we are not getting it our way.
Yeah.
So then we just talked about it after, like, this is not the way we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it differently.
Yeah, it's such a good example. And like for me, the invitation that we always get from kids is to come back to this moment. Because every time, if you really look at it, what often like creates the most frustration of all in parents is that we want to be somewhere else. Like we're going somewhere. This is more important. I'm on my way somewhere. And the child is like, oh, life is interesting. What's happening here? I have an emotion. What's happening here? What is this? What is that? We're like, no. What's going to happen in the future is more interesting or more important. So I don't have time to be alive in a way right now. And the kids are always like calling us back. And I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's the way of they actually teaching us be in the now. I mean, if you just have a look at what Jesus said as well, if you enter the kingdom of God, you have to become like a child.
Yeah.
Right? It's like this message, like they are bringing this child energy of being in the now. And if we can enter the now, we can also be more present with them. And I think they show us this every day, but we are not always present in.
No, we're not available because we're so, on our way. And I think also like what you said in the beginning, like just the fact that we labor ourselves as parents when we have kids is very interesting, because when you put a label on you, oh, I'm a mother now. Okay, what's that? What's a mother for you? Like, is it even something that is called being a mother, except all the different like images we put on it? Like, my image of being a mother can be different from someone else. And also I think that when you put the label on it, then you also need to be that. So like being in the store with a child, for example, and I'm the mother and I'm seen as the mother, then I also need to act as a mother, which kind of limits my way of interacting with the kid, or it can limit the way. Like, you can use the label playfully, of course, but if you have it as part of your identity, then it can easily get a little bit twisted.
Yeah, and it's
one interesting part, and one interesting part is also, why do we want to have kids? Why do we want to be parents? What in us is it that long for this relationship, and what do we really want from it? Like, to ask that kind of questions, because often it can be, oh, but I want to have someone I can have like this close relationship with, and like this unconditional love, and I want to have someone to play with. We can go on adventures, and we can have all these images about how the relationship with this child is going to be, which is actually putting a lot of pressure on the child. Because what if the child doesn't meet our expectations? If I put like all my emotions and all my dreams into this relationship, and then I don't get that. And I mean, you can compare that with a lot of close relationships, but also I have you, so we can go on adventures together, which is beautiful, but it's also a hook in it. And I want you to experience unconditional love. Then it's still like, I want something from you. So if you don't show me unconditional love, I'm going to be disappointed. I'm going to have like, it's going to be, and I think that's so interesting, because very often we have this very beautiful image. Oh, I want to feel this. I want to have this experience with my child. I want to give it like everything. And we are going to, I mean, depending on what kind of dreams you have, play soccer together, or we are going to go out in the forest and have these beautiful camps, and we're going to do whatever. But sometimes the child wants to do something else. Maybe the child don't want to play soccer. Maybe the child is an artist, or maybe I want the child to be an artist, but the child just want to go out and do sports with his friends. Or so it's
it's very important. That's something that I have seen with so many parents, is like we have many dreams. Like, if you can talk about becoming a soccer player or a famous actress or whatever, right? And when we don't succeed with that, we put that into our kids. So we put them into the school of soccer or into the training, and we project all our failures that we didn't succeed with, because then if they succeed, we will feel something.
Then we succeed.
So that is something that I have been very like with my son, to like, if he doesn't want to play football, it's fine. If you want to try karate, it's fine. If you want to do nothing, it's fine. You know, to put that. I think that is something that is very important for all parents to have a look at.
And also, like, when you have a child who doesn't feel good, like who are depressed or have anxiety or all these kind of things, which is happening in many families I work with, then it's also this, like, even if you at some level are fine with the child not feeling good, it still affects you so much. So having a child that is depressed, for example, it makes me feel like a worse parent, because like it says something about me. And when people look at me, they see that I maybe didn't succeed with my parenting because of this. And then you add the pressure again to the child, to like, oh, now my parents are suffering because I am suffering. And even when I've been talking to parents, sometimes the parent can be like, yeah, but I cannot feel good or like have pleasure or good emotions as long as my child is not feeling good. And I'm like, no, it's the other way around. You need to take care of yourself to be able to take care of the child. So very often, I think when you look at like the human behavior, when we're just like acting and like reacting, it's very easy to get it backwards. Like, oh, I can't, I feel bad because you feel bad. And then I can only feel good if you feel good. So you have also the power over my well-being, which is kind of heavy for a child. To be responsible for the parents' well-being, instead of like, okay, me as a parent, I have to like fill myself. I have to work with all these things I need to work on and be as whole as possible, so I can pour that into my child and share that with my child, because we know that, I mean, we affect each other with emotions, we affect each other with energy, we affect each other with like what we are. So what do we want to be as parents, instead of what do we want, or how does it have to look, like the form, what is right. Oh, we need to go to bed on this time and wake up on this time and eat like this and do like this and show up like this and behave in the store, and we have to, so many things we need to do, instead of, okay, who do I want to be and who do I want to share with, like the most precious being I've ever met, which is my child. That's like, yeah, how I see it.
Beautiful.
And also what I want to help parents with, to find that inside. So you can go from kind of being a victim for the situation to, okay, how can I grow, or how can I learn more, or how can this situation that seems like something difficult be something that brings our closer in our relationship, for example.
It's beautiful. So you're like working with this with parents, so we can like, when people are watching this, they can contact you and like learn certain techniques and things to.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Right now, my website is mostly in Swedish. I'm working on like an English page to be able to communicate more like wide or broadly. But yeah, it's possible. I'm working on a lot of different stuff right now. I'm working on like an online club for parents, especially for parents who have difficulties with like psychiatry and this and school related issues and stuff.
Yeah, that's something I also want to go deeper into. Is this you know, because today we have many children who get labeled as different things, right? And we can see like actually there is a gift, but that gift is labeled as something wrong, and they get medicated and then be put into systems both in home and in school and medicated with medicine, so-called medicine that like put the spirit down. Do you want to go a little bit deeper into that and what you think about it, and if you have any, I said, better solutions for it for parents to do?
I think, I mean, I've been working for many years with this group of kids and families, and I can see sometimes that parents and the kids get like a really good help from being labeled like this and getting like medication or whatever. But I think from my perspective, it's mostly a way for society to put the reason for something that doesn't work, like outside or on the individuals. Because I think it's very interesting that like more and more and more kids kind of fall out and into those labels. And it's almost like every time something doesn't work, it's like, oh, we need to diagnose here, we need to explain it with a label here, we need to, instead of saying, okay, what in the society is actually creating this in more and more families and more kids. And also in the area I work a lot is with kids who are not able to participate in school because the school environment is just like breaking them down. So in the end, it's not possible for them to be there. And then it's also, oh, then we need to label the kids instead of looking at an environment that is actually very dysfunctional. And I mean, all the whole society, like if we are honest and dare to be open. And I mean, it's not that someone has done something wrong or bad. This is like how humans, it seems like it's how humans do it. But we need to look at it and see what we're actually doing and see what human beings actually need to be healthy. And so, I mean, just how far we get from nature and how close we are in like emotions and how scared we are all the time and how difficult it is for us to act towards ourselves in a loving way. And like all these restrictions and all the stress we're shown in the society, it's almost like it's normal to have like a high level of stress. Otherwise, you might even feel lazy. Like if you have a work, yeah, stress is like part of it. And yes, stress is good in small portions or in like limited times, but not like we do it now.
No.
And yeah, so I think we need to have a close look. And I think that the kids now this is a way that they show us that this is not working. Because if you see, we are like, this is making us sick. This is like, we have to put labels here. Oh, this one is like that. This one is like this. Because we make like the norm more and more narrow. So more and more people are like outside. So instead of looking at the norm and saying, oh, we need to change something here, we just like, find explanations that won't work in the long run. Because this will just continue until we see like everything else. It's just going to be more and more painful from my perspective until we find a solution that works.
Yeah, I think the whole
suffering along the way.
I think the whole purpose of the school system needs to be considered, like from child and parent and relationship between human beings perspective. And when we know the purpose of the school system, we can build a school that is actually beneficial for the evolution of the child in this time. And I think like how I see it, oh, there's a rainbow there. Like how I see it is like more and more people, as you say, are not within the box, within the norm. And we're going to come to a tipping point. It feels like it's probably, hopefully soon, going to come to a tipping point that, okay, the norm, like there's fewer people within the norm than that says the norm is just, why? Like the norm is bullshit. And in many areas, not just the school system and how we parent, but the society as a whole now it's just getting stranger and stranger. Why do they want to put these ideas and limitations upon us? Like, how long is it going to take until we say, no, we are limitless. We're not going to learn this bullshit anymore. So like some people ask me, like, do you want to put Anisha in school? I was like, no, I don't want to put her in school. They're like, but you have to go to school, man. I was like, of course I want her to play with other kids to learn this. Like, how do I respond, and how do I act with other people, like to get to blend the energies and feel like we cannot get peace in the world if everyone has their kid at home and they don't learn how to interact, of course. But to just put a lot of people in a big group, and then if they don't act like robots in that big group, and then tell them, nah, it's something wrong with you because you don't fit into that module. It's like, what can we do now? Like, within the system, we know these false limitations are put around. Like, what can we do, like, from in the system? Because I want my kids to play with other kids, so the school is where to find other kids. So what can we do within the current system to go beyond it and not give all these limitations to our kids? Like, how can we help them to become free, even though they're going to this structured thing?
I think it's really difficult. But again, I think it's the invitation is always to come back inside and nurture yourself, so you don't play along, because it's so easy for us to go to, oh, but what if my child is not in school? And then we get scared, because somewhere we are so programmed to think that even though I question it, I still play along in a way. It's still like, yeah, but you have to, or grades are important, or yeah, but you need to, whatever it is, you need to like behave. So I think what we can do is to help our kids like handle a weird situation and understand that it's not so important that we think it is, and that the organization itself like tell that it is. Because also, like, learning nowadays is so different from when the school was born. So we don't need that system anymore to learn.
No.
Yes, we need it to like socialize and interact and all this, but that's not what they teach in school. They don't get help with that. You don't learn about how to respond on conflicts in a good way, or how to create a nice environment with other people, or how to understand other people's emotions, or how to respect, because the system itself is so stressed and the people working in the system is so stressed. So we're just feeding the kids with stress, and it's toxic.
Yeah, and
so we need to be like the other. We need to balance it up and really take care of ourselves at home, and really like pour the other side into the kids, so they can. I wish that they could go there and just be like, okay, this is interesting. What's happening here? Like, to kind of look at it as a reality, whatever movie. But I mean, we have emotions and response, and being human is can be challenging.
Yeah, and I think yeah, excuse me. I think it comes down to a big responsibility to us as parents in the form of our own awakening as well. Because when we awake in different time, all of us, right? But as we awaken, we can use that consciousness into our children in the daily life. For example, we learn about certain things, certain topics, and then, for example, we watched the Daniel Tiger the other day, right? Yeah. And Daniel Tiger's mom told Daniel Tiger that he needed to take vaccine. He needed to take that to be healthy. So we
And
needed
he was
to,
like, why do I need to take this? I'm not sick.
yeah, so we needed to go in and correct that, because that was false information. That's not how you become healthy. It's not just to put something in a needle in the arm. It's like building up yourself with food and nutrition, you know. So we needed to go in and tell Anisha, our daughter, 5 years old, like, this you cannot listen to because this is false. And this is also something we have to interact with all the time and be aware, so don't the children become too lost in it, to make them strong. And also what is important is the spirituality, because many of the listeners who are listening to this are into the spiritual field, and we want to know also how you use your spirituality with your kids. We, for example, we use it in our own way. Many people have asked us, so maybe we have time in the end to share a little bit also. I think that could be interesting, because people want to know, how do you guys manage it? You guys are into the field all the time with the spirituality, how you do meditation or mantras or healthy living with the kids. And that's something I would like to ask you. What do you do from your awareness to the kids?
I think that like the most important thing is to, like we said, to be present, to be here, and to be open. So what is most important for me is to keep learning about myself, so I can grow and see more clear and be more open, and from that interact with my kids from a different space, like more like allowing, or more and then also, like you said, to have this kind of conversations where you are in nature and you are connecting with the nature and trees, and you are feeling the water, and you are curious, and you are like hanging out. Like, we live on a little farm, so we have like animals, and we talk about the relationship with animals, and like, I think to integrate in nature, and to also be open about how we perceive things, how we see things, if it can be seen from a different perspective, and how we react and why we react, and like to be open about the life experience. And then I think to see the parenting more as being a guide than being like a parent. So more like being a role model and have things available, instead of saying, oh, now you need to meditate. They see me meditate, they know what meditation is about. They see me doing yoga, they see me like whatever I do, like in nature, or how I interact with the people, or how I think about things, and because I share that. And then I don't have any expectations on them to be spiritual, or to meditate, or to behave in any way at all, according to me, or my how I think that is like better or worse, or good or bad. Because I think also when you are in the spiritual world, it's easy to just change the labels to something else. So I don't want to be, it's like I don't want to be in the society, the community of the society. So I create my own community with my own rules. And I think it's difficult for human beings to go out and like not like by default, in a way, create something similar, but we think it's better. So for me, it's a lot
new
about
limitations with different names.
Understanding like that better and worse is not existing. It's just made up. So I don't need to react on that. Good and bad, it's not happening. It's just made up. So you can't really be wrong, and you can't be right. You are like perfect, whatever. And then you can see like, oh, if I do like this, we have this reaction. If I do like that, this happens. So it's more, and I learned so much from the horses I lived with. For example, in like interacting and like handling energy and how to communicate without words, and so that's really helpful too. Was that some?
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of horses, this is a little bit off, but so like horses, naturally their hooves will like sink into the ground and they get this amazing grounding, like we walk barefoot. But then we put these metal shoes on the horses, and then the horse is like, oh, I'm gonna roll around in the grass and ground my back. And it's like, oh, let's put a blanket over the horse so it doesn't get dirty, so we have to brush it so much. So like nature has this way of being in the moment and to ground and to connect with the electromagnetic field of the earth. But then we come in with our boxes and like, no, it should have shoes and should have a blanket. So and it's just a very painting image of what we do to ourselves and our kids as well. Just on a horse. So I think
it's interesting. We can maybe talk about horses and that kind of communication, because it's also something that interests me a lot, but it's a different topic. But I mean, the horses here, they are just hanging out outside. You can go inside.
One thing that comes up here is what will be your number one tip for, let's say, not every parent and children are living in the nature. They are not living on a farm. They may living in a big city. They may have been diagnosed with ADHD. They're taking medication. What will be your guidance to them, because they can see that it's wrong, but they don't really know how to do or handle the situation? What will be your message to them to really?
I think, I had a super beautiful conversation yesterday with a father about his child, and I think that like what's most important is to remove the labels of right and wrong that we were talking about, because that's gonna distract you and it's gonna affect, because if you think that something can be right and wrong, then you're living in fear. Like, because you can be wrong as a parent, my child can be wrong, everything, it's so much that can be wrong. So if you just remove that, it's going to be easier. It's different. Everyone is different. We are like, it's different ways. And then also to move move the responsibility for things from outside to inside. And that's something we talked about a lot yesterday, that when the child is acting in a way, and I want the child to change, and that's also like in every relationship, and it's also good to bring it into if you are like living separated as parents. It can also be very different or difficult in the relationship. You want to change the other person, even if you live together, because it makes me feel better. So to move that, I need to change everything outside to feel better, to move it inside and see, okay, this is a challenging situation. How can I do something different? How can I act different? Or how can I understand in a new way? And how can I meet in a new way? Can I listen better? I think always slow down is good. And listen, shut up, be there and see what happens, instead of trying to change and giving like all this, oh, you should do that, or if you just, or if you, because when we are present and we're really listening, then we will understand, oh, because we're so quick in making an assumption about what's happening. Oh, the child is acting up because of, it doesn't want to sit at the table and eat. But maybe if you slow down and really listen, maybe something happened in school. Maybe the child has an emotion. Maybe it's thinking about something that is going to happen or happened a week ago. I mean, the child has its own world. It doesn't share yours. it has its own, like totally its own world. So we need to be curious about what's going on there, like to want to be as close as possible and see it from the other side, and also see, okay, how can I interact with this? How can I create a closer relationship? How can I understand it differently? So that's I mean, just from that talk yesterday, I was just amazed. It's so amazing when you can talk to someone and they can be like, oh, so it's not that it's happening, it's this. Oh, so I don't need to change the other parent. I can use it as a reason to get to know my child better. That's awesome. Thank you, the other parent. Like, you totally change the relationship and you don't need to change the other. So I think.
So the number one tip is to remove the label and let go of the right and wrong. Step back, slow down, and really listen, because probably there is an emotion or something that is going on within the child, and some way open up so the child can give expression to that emotion then. So I can learn and I can change, instead of expecting and putting the limitation that the child should change. Or
you won't be able to change someone else. So it's like a waste of energy, but we so badly want that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's painful to look inside and see, oh, I'm doing this or I'm doing that. But that's where you can actually change things.
Yeah. And what we also can bring here from your wisdom is to be in the present moment. We can never hesitate that enough, you know. It's all in the spiritual teachings everywhere. Be in the present moment. And I think this topic is so big with the kids and so interesting. So I think we need to have a part 2 if you're up for it when we can, because we only have a few seconds left, and I think we need to go deeper into certain dimensions of this as well. But we want to thank you a lot for this. I think this will be very, very helpful for many parents out there to take part of and dive deeper into, and hopefully you were up to speak to us again.
I am totally. This is like the most fun thing I know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
So welcome, and we see you soon again. Okay.
See you for part 2.
Have an awesome day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.